Minecraft tips to succeed in combat and archery. Hello and welcome back to another video here on Mindflood. Between the building, exploring, and crafting, there's quite a bit to get caught up with. Minecraft sees new updates frequently. Combat is mostly straightforward, but there are a few tricks to the trade, so to speak. For those hopping in, that is a solid primer featuring few essential tips when it comes to accumulating the combat and archery. Stay tuned. Gather a lot of resources early. To maximize both efficiency and damage output in combat, players need to invest in their tools. Focusing on resource gathering early that provides the player with the ability to craft iron or diamond swords. An effective chicken farm results in the collection of feathers, which are crucial when it comes to crafting an arsenal of arrows. Those who invest early in the rigorous task of Minecraft can render the drawbacks of combat an absolute breeze, if not a total non-factor, and cut down on the related resource grinding later in the game. Enchantments make a difference. Enchantments are an aspect of Minecraft that becomes a concern towards the mid to late game stages of players' progress. These things can make digging and resource gathering much better, but there are a handful of enchantments that drastically affect combat as well. From enemy specific damage bonuses to knockback and fire damage, it's more than worth to invest in both an enchantment table and a room, as well as the anvil and mob spawner to make the most out of the enchantments the player creates. Invest in your sword. From the moment the player starts punching trees, they should begin thinking about how they're going to allocate resources. It's one thing to consider that materials will be used for the house, but it's important to keep in mind that upgrading weapons and tools should be the focus. The first few diamonds a player finds should be used on both a sword and a pickaxe. These tools have the utmost importance, as the former will protect the player and deliver major damage, and the latter will allow access to building the nether portal. Using spacing effectively. Spacing is something that can make a world of difference in combat. Players think about this in regards to building in Minecraft, but not as much when they're facing down an enemy. Understanding enemies' limitations when it comes to spacing makes a world of difference. All walking enemies are unable to scale too high block wall, they get pushed by water, and knockback can send them flying. All three of these things allow the player to create distance and space themselves in a way that they can dish out damage and remain unaffected. Blocking is a thing. Early Minecraft players may not know about this, but the game has added both blocking with swords and actual shields in the game. This adds another level of combat that simply isn't predicted on swiping a sword then moving to avoid an incoming attack. Blocking is a passive and defensive approach to combat, and though instincts would tell a player to get aggressive, sometimes the best action is inaction. There's nothing better than blocking an opponent's strike only to lower the shield and retaliate with an equally powerful blow. Use the environment. The enemy artificial intelligence in Minecraft is pretty solid, but it can still be tricked and manipulated by humans. Water and lava tend to naturally flow in most caves, which means players can use them to their advantage. Waterfalls make it so enemies get stuck, which makes defeating them rather easy. Lava, on the other hand, is avoided by creatures, but a weapon with knockback and can send one of them flying to a burning death. This is why enchantments are difference makers and were talked about earlier. Wear the best armor that you can. Armor is an important part of combat in Minecraft. Not only does it mitigate the damage the player takes, but it'll almost always be the difference between living or dying from a surprise creeper explosion. When starting from the first time, it may seem as though an iron is a precious resource that should be only used for swords and pickaxes. It should be utilized for a complete set of armor. To do so, players will need to have 24 iron ingots in total to make the helmet, chest plates, pants, and boot. Once equipped, the player is ready to take on the world. Be patient. Patience and pacing oneself may seem boring or uninteresting, but rushing into a combat scenario without understanding the entire picture could be devastating. Not only does the chance of dying significantly increase, but it could also result in the loss of valuable items or resources. Take some time to experiment and get comfortable with the sword's reach versus the mobs, and set up an archery range to test the accuracy as well as an arrow drop. Being methodical will result in a better experience than rushing into the finish line. Use range whenever possible. The bow and the arrow may seem less effective than a sword, but can be the saving grace in several situations. Using a bow is the single most effective way to avoid a creeper explosion, as it can be disposed of at a reasonable distance. In addition to that, the bow will also provide the player with the ability to fire back at pesky skeletons who make use of the dark and often spawn in dark cave ceilings. Players who have trouble in the nether will also come to learn that the bow makes it all more manageable. That's all for the combat tips in today's video. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.